Okay, I screwed up. Royally, I know that. I'm not here for sympathy, I swear. I need to know if I'm a monster. A genuine, irredeemable monster. Eli's been gone for 2 weeks, and the silence in this apartment is deafening. It's a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, and the only thought that loops in my head, over and over, is a frantic, useless scream. What have I done? I keep replaying it all, every stupid word, every smug little smile, and I can't figure out where the real poison was. Was it in what I said, or was it in me the whole time, just waiting for a chance to leak out and ruin the only good thing I had? I guess I just need someone outside of my own head to tell me, just lay it on me. I can take it. I think. On paper, Eli and I were the perfect couple. The kind you see in curated Instagram posts, all smiles and scenic backgrounds. I'm a senior product marketing director at a pretty big tech firm. You know the type? Good salary, better stock options, a calendar that looks like a game of Tetris on expert mode. I was, in my own mind, the achiever, the one who had her life meticulously planned and executed. Eli was a brilliant programmer, a senior developer at a respectable software company. He was comfortable, well paid, but he had this spark, a restlessness. He was always tinkering with side projects, losing himself in lines of code that would eventually become some fascinating, if not particularly profitable, little application. I called them his cute little projects. That should have been the first red flag, right? The condescension was baked right in. I told myself I was being supportive. I'd listen intently as he explained the intricacies of a new algorithm, nodding along like I understood, all while a part of my brain was mentally drafting a work email. I saw myself as the anchor in our relationship, the stable force that allowed him the freedom to indulge in his hobbies. I paid the bigger share of the mortgage on our ridiculously overpriced apartment. I handled the investments. I was the one whose career path had a clear, upward trajectory. He was the brilliant, gentle dreamer, and I was the pragmatic powerhouse that kept our world spinning. It was a dynamic that fed my ego in a way I didn't fully understand until it was too late. There was one thing he was absolutely rigid about, though. It was his invisible red line. He brought it up once, early in our relationship, after I'd made some offhand comment about a friend's failed startup. He turned to me, his expression serious in a way that startled me, and said, "I don't care about failing, Juliet. I really don't. It's just data. But I can't stand insincerity. Support is support. It's not pity disguised as encouragement. If you ever believe in something I do, I need it to be real." I'd kissed him and promised, of course. I thought I meant it. I really did. Then, about 6 months ago, Eli decided to make the leap. He came to me one evening, his eyes shining with a mixture of terror and exhilaration, and announced he was quitting his job. He was going to take his most ambitious little project, an AI-powered platform for generative music composition he called Sonus, and turn it into a real company. He had a small nest egg saved up, enough to keep him afloat for a year if he was frugal. He wasn't asking me for money, he was asking for my belief. And I performed the role of the supportive girlfriend flawlessly. I became a caricature of a Silicon Valley partner. I threw him a small founder's dinner, complete with champagne and a toast to his courage. I leveraged my professional expertise, spending hours helping him refine his pitch deck, sharpening his value proposition until it was razor sharp. I even rewrote the copy for his landing page, my corporate jargon making his passion sound like a viable, market-ready product. At family gatherings, when his well-meaning but skeptical parents would ask about his Plan B, I would jump in with a confident, passionate defense of his vision, painting a picture of inevitable success. I was his biggest cheerleader, his strategic advisor, his rock, a damn Oscar-worthy actress. I convinced him. I even convinced myself sometimes. But the performance always ended when I was with my friends. My circle is competitive. We're all in similar high-pressure fields, and our get-togethers often devolved into a subtle game of one-upmanship disguised as friendly chatter. Who got a promotion, who closed a bigger deal, who bought a more impressive piece of art. In that arena, Eli's risky, unpaid venture felt like a liability to my brand. It made me feel vulnerable, so I turned his dream into a punchline. It was my go-to party trick, my little comedy routine to reassert my dominance. "Oh, Sonus is going great," I'd say, rolling my eyes dramatically over a glass of expensive wine. He's in his genius phase, which mostly means he forgets to shower and lives on coffee and instant ramen. The other day, I found him on eBay buying used server racks. Can you imagine? My guy is literally building his tech empire out of scrap metal. The laughter and sympathetic looks from my friends were like a drug. "You're a saint, Juliet," one would say, shaking her head in mock pity. It must be a lot supporting him through this. And I'd just soak it in, adding another layer to the caricature. "You know how men are," I'd continue, leaning in conspiratorially. "They need their little passion projects to feel fulfilled. It's his adorable midlife crisis, just a decade early." Each laugh felt like a validation. It confirmed my status as the sane, successful one in the relationship. I was aware on some level that what I was doing was deeply wrong. I'd come home from these dinners, see him passed out on the couch, laptop still balanced on his chest, and feel a sharp, sickening pang of guilt. But then I'd remember the feeling of being admired, of being seen as the strong one, and the guilt would recede. My biggest fear, the one I never admitted to anyone, was what if he actually succeeded? What if his little project became bigger than my stable, corporate career? Where would that leave me? I was so terrified of him surpassing me that I preemptively cut him down to a manageable size in the only way I knew how, with my words behind his back. The final act of my betrayal came during a happy hour with a few colleagues, including our mutual friend, Veronica. Veronica had known Eli since college. She was the one who introduced us. She works in my department, and we were friendly, though not as close as my other friends. The mood was light, everyone was complaining about deadlines and incompetent managers. Then someone asked me how Eli's music thingy was going. It was my cue. The stage was set. "Oh my God, you won't believe this," I began, my voice dripping with feigned exasperation. "He's trying to build his own servers now to save money. Our spare bedroom looks like a scrapyard. He spent a whole weekend driving to some guy's garage in the middle of nowhere to buy gently used hardware. I swear I'm dating a tech hoarder." I embellished the story, making it sound more pathetic and hopeless than it was, painting him as a clueless amateur playing with toys he didn't understand. My colleagues chuckled politely, but Veronica just stared into her drink, her expression unreadable. I felt a flicker of unease but ignored it, high on the attention. The conversation moved on, but the damage was done. Later that night, my phone buzzed. It was a long text from Veronica. "Juliet, what you did tonight was beyond messed up. It was cruel. I don't know if you hear yourself, but the way you talk about Eli behind his back is disgusting. He thinks you're his #1 supporter, his partner in this. He talks about you like you're the reason he has the courage to do any of it. And you're out here, turning his hard work and his vulnerability into a joke for a cheap laugh. I'm not going to be a part of it anymore. I'm not going to cover for you." I read the message, and my first reaction wasn't shame. It was pure, indignant anger. How dare she? I fired back a terse, defensive reply. "It was a joke. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Her response was instant. "No, you don't understand what you're doing." After that, silence. I stewed in my anger for the rest of the night, convinced she was the one who had crossed a line, not me. A few days passed. I managed to convince myself that Veronica was just being dramatic. Eli seemed normal, maybe a little quieter than usual, but he was deep in a coding problem, so I chalked it up to that. The calm before the storm. He came home from his co-working space on a Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, the picture of domestic normalcy. He didn't say hello. He just walked over to the kitchen island and placed his phone face up on the counter. He didn't slam it down. The gesture was deliberate, quiet, and utterly chilling. On the screen was a screenshot of a group chat. My group chat. It showed my messages from the other night, the ones about him being a tech hoarder. Below them was a short, simple message from Veronica to Eli. "I'm so sorry. I just thought you should know." My blood ran cold. The knife clattered from my hand onto the cutting board. I opened my mouth to say something, an excuse, a lie, anything, but no words came out. Eli finally looked at me, and his expression broke my heart. It wasn't anger. There was no shouting, no rage. It was a profound, bottomless disappointment. It was the look of someone seeing a beautiful illusion shatter into a million pieces. "Is this what you really think of me?" he asked, his voice steady but hollow. It wasn't an accusation. It was a genuine question. That my dream is a joke? That I'm just an amusing story for your friends? No, Eli, no, it's not like that, I stammered, the practiced excuses suddenly sounding flimsy and pathetic even to my own ears. I was just venting. I'm stressed. I'm scared for you, scared of you failing. He held up a hand to stop me, a gesture so gentle it was devastating. Don't, he said softly. Please don't make it about being scared for me. I could handle you being scared. I could even handle you thinking I'll fail. We could have talked about that. But this, he gestured to the phone, this is contempt. You don't respect me. Maybe you never did. He paused, looking around the apartment as if seeing it for the first time. Were you with me just because I made you feel successful, Juliet? Because my normal job made your high-flying career look even better. And now that I'm trying to build something of my own, something that might actually mean something, you have to tear it down so you can stay on top. Every word was a perfectly aimed dart, striking the very core of the ugly truth I'd been hiding from myself. He saw it all, he saw me, and in that moment I had never felt so small, so utterly exposed. The confrontation, if you could even call it that, was over in less than 10 minutes. There was nothing left to say. My attempts at damage control, the frantic apologies, the promises to change, the desperate I love yous, were met with a quiet, unshakable finality. He had built his entire venture on the foundation of my supposed belief, and I had just shown him that the foundation was made of sand. His principles, the ones I had secretly found a bit rigid and naive, were now an unbreakable wall. Trust, for him, wasn't a renewable resource. Once it was gone forever. He started packing that night. It was methodical and efficient. He didn't throw things around in a rage. He folded his clothes neatly, boxed up his books and computer equipment, and dismantled the infamous server rack from the spare room. Each quiet, deliberate action was a fresh stab of pain. I followed him from room to room, a weeping, pathetic ghost in my own home, begging him to stop, to just talk to me. He never raised his voice. He just kept working, occasionally saying, "There's nothing to talk about, Juliet," or "I can't do this anymore." By the next afternoon, he was gone. He'd arranged for a friend to help him move his things while I was at work. I came home to an apartment that felt cavernously empty. Half the books were gone from the shelves, his favorite mug was missing from the dish rack, the scent of his coffee was replaced by the sterile smell of cleaning spray. He had left his key on the counter. He had blocked my number. He had unfriended and blocked me on every social media platform. It was a complete and total amputation. In my panic, I turned to the very people I had tried so hard to impress. I called my friends, sobbing, expecting a chorus of sympathy and outrage on my behalf. Instead, I was met with a chillingly awkward silence. They offered clipped, non-committal phrases like, "Oh, wow, that's rough," and "I'm sure you guys will figure it out." No one offered to come over. No one defended me. Finally, I called Veronica, ready to unleash my grief and anger on her. She picked up on the second ring. "I'm not surprised," she said, her voice devoid of any pity. "I warned you, Juliet. You treated him like an accessory to your life, and he finally realized he deserved to be the main character in his own. This is on you. You earned this." Then she hung up. That was when the second, colder wave of reality hit me. The social currency I had gained by mocking him was worthless now that he was gone. I hadn't just lost my partner. I had exposed myself as the fraud I was, and no one wanted to be associated with the wreckage. The first week without him was a blur of denial and frantic, unanswered texts sent from my laptop to his email. I told myself it was a dramatic overreaction, that he'd cool down and come back. The second week, a crushing weight of reality began to settle in. He wasn't coming back. I started the grim task of purging the apartment of the last remnants of him, hoping it would bring some kind of closure. It was while clearing out the shared home office desk that I found it. Tucked away in a drawer, beneath a stack of old utility bills, was a plain manila folder I'd never seen before. It was labeled SONUS Vone Pitch. My heart hammered against my ribs. I knew I shouldn't look, that it was a violation of a privacy that no longer belonged to me, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened it. Inside were the earliest, most chaotic drafts of his business plan. Pages of frantic scribbles, complex diagrams, and lines of code. It was a map of his mind, raw and unfiltered. I flipped through the pages, a voyeur of the dream I had so casually ridiculed. And then, on the very last page, I found it. It was a draft of a cover letter addressed to a potential angel investor. Most of it was standard, professional pitching, but the final paragraph was different. It was personal. He had drawn a rough line through it, as if he'd decided it was too sentimental to include, but the words were still perfectly legible beneath the ink. Ultimately, the technical specifications and market analysis only tell half the story. The most critical angel investor in this project is my partner, Juliet. She hasn't invested a single dollar, but she has provided something far more valuable: her unwavering belief in me. It is that belief that transforms this from a collection of code into a real possibility. It is her faith that makes me certain this will work. I read the words once, then twice. The paper trembled in my hands. The air left my lungs in a ragged sob that seemed to tear its way out of my soul. This was what he believed. This was the pure, unvarnished trust he had placed in me. He saw me as the bedrock of his courage, the silent partner whose faith was the most valuable asset he possessed. And all the while, I was in a bar with my friends, laughing at him. The hypocrisy was so absolute, so monstrous, it physically hurt. Holding that piece of paper, I finally understood. I hadn't just broken his heart, I had desecrated something sacred. I had taken his most precious gift and ground it into dust for the sake of a few cheap laughs and a fleeting sense of superiority. Months have passed. It feels like a lifetime. My work, once the center of my universe, now feels hollow and meaningless. The promotions I craved, the targets I hit, they don't offer the same thrill. The friends I performed for have slowly drifted away, uncomfortable with the cloud of misery that now follows me. My perfect, curated life has crumbled into a lonely, silent routine. Tonight, after 2 glasses of wine, I did the one thing I promised myself I wouldn't. I opened LinkedIn. My fingers, acting of their own accord, typed his name into the search bar. His profile popped up instantly. He had a new headshot. He looked good, tired but energized, focused. And then I saw the name of his company, Sonus, right there under his name. Founder and CEO. My thumb hovered, then clicked. It was all there. A press release announcing they had secured a significant amount of seed funding from a well-known venture capital firm. A link to a tech blog that had written a glowing review of their beta product, calling it a game changer for independent musicians. Photos of a small, bright office filled with whiteboards and young, enthusiastic-looking employees. I fell down the rabbit hole. From LinkedIn, I jumped to the company's Instagram page. There were pictures of the team celebrating their launch. Eli was in the center of one, a bottle of champagne in his hand, beaming. He was surrounded by people who were looking at him with genuine admiration. Not pity, not condescension, real respect. He was building the world he had dreamed of, and he was doing it without me. The final, self-destructive click led me to his personal profile. It was public now. And the most recent post, from 2 days ago, was a photo of him on a stage, speaking at some industry conference. The room was packed. The spotlight was on him. He looked confident, happy, and completely whole. The caption he wrote beneath it was the final twist of the knife. It read, "Incredibly grateful for this journey, and for everyone who believed in us from the very beginning. Your faith made all the difference." I'm sitting here now, in the dark, the screen of my phone the only light in the room. His smiling face is glowing back at me. I just keep refreshing the page, watching the likes and congratulatory comments pile up. Each notification is a tiny digital confirmation of my failure. He is living the success I was so terrified of, the success I tried to sabotage with my own insecurity. And I am left here, in my own personal hell, a stalker on the sidelines of the life I should have been a part of. I am his ghost, and this, I know, is my punishment.